I wanted to pop on while I had a few minutes and I had a thought run through my head. Well, it's been running through my head all day, and I wanted to share a reason that I'm mad as hell. And when I tell you, you should be mad as hell too. My name is Sherry, and I am married to a type 1 diabetic, and I am a health advocate, health and nutrition advocate. And I was watching a docu-series on type 2 diabetes and reversing it, and with the ketogenic lifestyle and intermittent fasting. And one of the doctors that I get a lot of research from, and I read a lot of his research, Dr. Ken Berry, who I admire, and a keto advocate nutritionist also that I like, and we have a few of her cookbooks, Maria Emmerich. They were both part of this docu-series in the Caribbean. I think it was the Caribbean. Costa Rica. It was in Costa Rica. And I had watched I started to watch the first season, and I just had to shut it off because it was from 2017, and the advice that these diabetic nutritionists and this diabetic doctor were giving was horrible. Just horrible. Whole grains. If you have a low blood sugar, you just need to fix it. Just fix it. You don't have to count. Don't worry about counting the carbs. And when you do that, then you overshoot the blood sugar and you end up too high. And I couldn't even stomach it. I just had to shut it off. And one of the guests that was there during that one, he had already lost a limb to diabetes. And he felt like he had to give up all the foods that he loved, all the meat, all, foods that a guy loves. And when he went home, he didn't make any changes, and he ended up having to have a second leg amputated. And he passed away. He died a year after the show. Now, fast forward to 2021, when they did basically a reboot, and the host had learned about the ketogenic and fasting and really realized how wrong that first series was. So then he brought Dr. Ken Berry and Maria Emmerich and some other really great specialists. Dr. Fung made a video appearance. And this is even during COVID. Well, 2021. So I guess still kind of COVID, whatever. They brought back the wife to the gentleman that died in season 1, and because they had come as a couple to this thing. And she said point blank, if they would have been taught what they were in 2017, what they were taught in 2021, her husband would still be with them. And she's right. And this is why I'm mad as hell. My husband is a type 1 diabetic. My father is a type 2 diabetic. Most of my husband's family is type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic. My stepmom is a type 2 diabetic. So many friends and family that I know are diabetic, and they don't have to be. And I look at the advice, the medical advice from these people that we're supposed to trust. And some of them want you to just blindly trust. They don't want you to be a partner in your health journey. And they will treat type 2 diabetes the same as type 1 diabetes, and it's completely not. But even with that, the whole mentality of just eat the carbs and cover it with insulin. If you're a type 2 diabetic, it's okay. We'll just give you medicine. You don't need to change your diet. You don't need to eat differently. If the medication doesn't work, then we'll just stick you on insulin. Now you're a diabetic. You don't deserve or shouldn't expect to have a normal A1C, which if you don't know what an A1C is, it is a 3-month average of your blood sugar, of what it's been running. So it's something that gets done typically in a lab, though you can test yours at home. It works a little different, but it's very accurate. Same technology that the labs use. So what makes me mad as hell is that these doctors and nutritionists treat two very different diseases the same, and they shouldn't. And let's throw in the dementia aspect. Dementia and Alzheimer's and memory issues, Parkinson's, those are actually, now we know they're a type of diabetes of the brain, hyperinsulinemia of the brain, where your brain's not using your insulin. There's no research being done into how to do that. There's no studies. Now, there are some very good doctors that are treating their patients with ketogenic diet and fasting as a way to slow, or if you have it in your genes like I do, to help prevent it. I look at my dad, who was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It was after I was married, so probably 23 years ago. And at that time, my husband was struggling with his own diabetes and trying to get his insulin under control because the insulin they had him on was not the right insulin. And it's hard to find doctors that want to learn and care enough to not just get you in, try and shove you on a medication, come back in 3 months or 6 months just to go over the same thing all over again. So especially these last few years, probably the last decade, I've watched my dad deteriorate. He went from oral medication that didn't work to being on insulin, then to being on a lot of insulin, and a dietitian that wanted him to eat an insane amount of carbs. There's no reason for that. And now he has neuropathy in his feet. His eyes had started going bad. He couldn't even bend over to tie his shoe without pain. And you think, well, I mean, they had him, I'll get to that point, on a huge amount of insulin, and it wasn't even separated. So he was having to eat to his insulin, which just baffles me. I'm in Green Bay, not at home, but I wanted to do this. It just baffles me. They just had him on this one type of insulin. So if he was taking this massive amounts, but then wasn't hungry, he would get a really low blood sugar. And it just eats me up inside that so many people are not given the right information. They're not given help. And if they're not a geek like me and know where to find it, they're just going to keep doing it. That's why I research and scream the hell out of all of this. In August, I started working with my dad. He called me because he had been watching my fasting journey. And he informed me that he had been doing some shorter fasts of 16 hours, 18 hours. And that's where he wanted to stay. But he wanted to pick my brain on things. And he was doing good. And I hadn't seen him since June. So I was working with him since the beginning of August or so. And then he was doing 24-hour fasts and 42-hour fasts. And he hasn't quite changed his diet yet, but he's working on it because he's seen how well he's feeling. He's been able to lower his insulin. I turned him on to Dr. Jason Fung because he works with type 2 diabetics. I'm not a medical professional. I probably could be. If there was a test that I could take or something, I would, but I don't want to sit through school and all of that. So, and I don't want to work in the traditional medical field. So I want to just help spread these other great physician like Dr. Fung and Dr. Bernstein and Dr. Berry and Maria Emmerich and Dr. Westman and our great Neolife scientists. I want to spread their message. That's my passion. So back to my dad. I turned him on to Dr. Fung, and he's been he read his book, his first book, The Obesity Code, and he's watched a lot of his videos. He just had his annual checkup with his VA doctor. He's a vet too, which, by the way, they get the worst care ever. But his doctor rocks because his doctor actually is willing to do research and read things. And so he saw his doctor just earlier this week. So we're in the last week, basically, of October. And he's dropped in a year now. And really just since August, he's dropped over 30 pounds, several pant sizes. I saw him a few weeks ago, and he just looked so much healthier. He's been doing it all through fasting and then slowly changing his diet. He's got a lot of food stored up and on a fixed income. You don't want to waste it. So we're trying to strategically do that and just ease into a lower carb life. But he's reduced his insulin by 75%. He's gotten off of a medication, and this has been just him and I working together because his dietitian, she needs to be fired, but when you've only got disability insurance, you can't really do that. You have to nod and smile. His doctor's on board with what he's doing. His doctor actually took down Dr. Jason Fung's information, the name of his book, his YouTube channel, the whole bit. So I'm really hoping that he does do what he said he would and research that, because having another doctor in this area, even if he can't give out that medical advice, but he can point his patients in that direction. It's not uncommon in government run medical things is their hands are tied with a lot of what they have to say. But they can get around that by stating, hey, I have to write this in your chart, but you really should go check out this doctor or read this book. But I have to tell you this so I don't lose my license. And some doctors are doing that. They're few and far in between, and it's sad. And we need to raise that awareness. As a community, as a health community, if you're conscious about your health, and you wouldn't be here if you weren't, unless you like staring at my pretty face, whatever, at the end of a hectic Thursday. So you care about your health, and that's why you're listening to me jabber on. These doctors aren't going to educate themselves. They're taught what they're taught in med school, and what they have, the little bit that they have to do for continuing education each year, and they're paid by Big Pharma. They're paid to push drugs. Do you know my husband's doctor wanted to put him on a statin years ago? And you want to know the reason? I'll tell you the reason. You're a diabetic, and it's standard care to put you on a statin. Didn't matter that his cholesterol was fine. Didn't matter that there's absolutely not a shred of evidence that statins really make any difference. It's the standard of care because you're a diabetic. You need to take this medication so that you can have a side effect, and then we can give you more medication. Or it can make your blood sugar go up, so then you have to take more insulin. If my husband's mom would have been taught the things we know now when he got diagnosed at age 13 or 14, whenever that was, we wouldn't now be fighting this uphill battle. But we are, and there's a reason we are. God gives us our journey. And maybe because we're fighting this uphill battle, it gives us more passion to sit here and yell to anyone that will listen and help anyone that wants the help, wants to make that change, and teach them how to be advocates to their physician. And if they have a choice of physicians, if their physician refuses to be a partner with them and is one of those, I'm the doctor, you're the patient, you listen to me, fire their butt and go find a physician that wants to be on your team because they work for you. The reason that physicians, whether they know it or not, really the medical establishment, they have no interest in seeing you get healthy. Because if you get healthy, the less that you have to come see them, which means the lower their paycheck. Because if hospitals and clinics start losing money because patients are too healthy, guess what? Doctors won't get paid as much. And no doctor really goes into the medical field with the intent of becoming rich or anything. I truly believe that. I believe all doctors start out in the field because they want to help people and they think, oh, it's health care. So they want to help people. They want to make people well. But Big Pharma and the medical establishment quickly changes that passion in them and won't let them make people well. They tie their hands. They suck every bit of enthusiasm out of most of these doctors. So if you've watched this long, now you know why I'm mad as hell. because we have been cheated and wronged by the medical facilities for decades. Not just with diabetes, though that's one of the largest issues, but with so much more. So education is the key. If you want to reach out to me, you can comment on this video. You can message me through my blog, Sherry's Low Carb Kitchen. There's lots of recipes on there. I do have to update it, but I'm getting there. I've got some articles I've written, and I'm going to keep posting videos on here, but I can get you information. I can share information that I have. I can share studies that I have. Please know, if you are a diabetic, type 1, we can't ever get you off your insulin, but we can get it really, really low, super low, and lower all those complications, and you can have a normal A1C. Don't let any doctor tell you you can't. If you're a type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic, guess what, baby? That can be reversed. It will take work and dedication, but it can completely be reversed. You can get off medication, and I am not giving any medical advice. I am just stating what I have seen time and time again. And even if you're one of the cases where you can't get off the medication because it's been too long and now your pancreas is shot, you may have moved from type 2 into LATA, which is late onset type 1. So now you're going to be on insulin forever because your pancreas no longer works. We can get that insulin really low. But if you act now and be an advocate, your own advocate for your own health, no one else is going to do it for you. My husband and my dad are living proof. No one else is doing it for them. We're on our own. And that's how it's going to be. So that was really on my heart. And I wanted to share that on my new page. It's nothing sciencey. There's no studies. Those will be coming shortly. I have one I want to do on carotenoids and vegetables and digestion. But after watching that docuseries, it's called Reversed, and it's on Glued, but I didn't even get to watch the end of it because it cut off. So I'm actually going to reach out to Dr. Barry and see where I might be able to see the entire thing. I had to watch it on my phone because on the smart TV it only had 46 minutes of video, and it was really and it wouldn't keep playing anyway. And it was, what was on the phone was a 4.5 hour, but I didn't even get to see the last 2 days. It cut off. So I would really like to see graduation day for those people. But after watching that and watching most of the first series and being sick to my stomach over the bad information that they were given, it just kind of lit this fire that I really needed to just share this, because seriously, as I was watching that, I felt steam rolling out my ears with the advice that they were giving these patients, that these guests. They had 5 of them on there, and it was horrific. There was no goal of getting them off of medication. It was just to control it. So go out there, study. Let me know how I can be a help for you. Take your health in your own hands. Well, not in your own hands, but take control of your health. You have to be your own advocate. You have to be. And I'm just going to keep stressing that. So, with that, I will catch you on the flip side, and thanks for listening to me ramble.